One. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy CIZZY, you dig, live action, back at it again with another episode of the Voices of Value podcast, where we bring guests on to share their stories. Look, anybody who's here for the fifth or sixth or seventh consecutive Friday listening to this podcast, I appreciate you. I hope God's blessing you in all the major ways, but I really appreciate you just taking the time out to listen to the podcast, listen to our guests, give our guests a follow, support their journey, support their stories. And we're back at it with another dope guest, as I promised. We got our guy, Tyree Colbert. I believe I pronounced that right. How you doing today, boss?
How you doing?
Bless, man. Say what's up to the people. Let them know, what city you're coming from. I just told you kind of why I'm having you on the podcast.
Yeah,
Share a little bit about your background, a little bit about your story.
I'm Tyree Colbert. I'm from Kansas City. I'm a 16-year-old Black author and just a Black youth. Just empowerment to the city.
Hell yeah. I love it, man. Did you grow up in Kansas City since were you born and raised here? Everything Casey?
All I
I
know is
love,
Kansas. Like I done traveled a little bit, but my heart here.
I love that, man. And the most important thing about this podcast is, yes, we want to talk about the book. We want to talk about what you're trying to do for the town and for yourself. But I really want people to kind of get a solid understanding of who you are and what inspires you and again, further into your background. So starting like when you was I know you still a young bull, but when you were a younger bull, you know what I'm saying? And you was like a kid, what were you really interested in? What were you really passionate about? Were you always writing? Were you always making, doing poetry or creating in that way? Or were you more interested in sports or TV or cartoons? Like think about when you were 7, 8 years old, what were your early interests?
I did a lot of different sports. Like I played football. I did wrestling in middle school. Like I run track a little bit still. Like I was more of an athlete at first, but when I lost so much, that would bring me into my writing path of doing the writing to express myself.
I love that. And was there someone in particular that kind of inspired you in regards to the writing process, or was it just very natural? Like one night you was just chilling and you was like, damn, there's a lot going on around me. Let me write. Or does your pops write, or does an auntie, like what kind of got you introduced to the writing process?
It was really my grandma and my dad that was writers, and that what got me like into writing. That's the way they express themselves, and they just taught me like this what you got to do to express yourself, to not go down the other paths that you people use to express themselves. Not to say it is wrong, but like the way they do it, it ain't gonna get them in nowhere but jail and dead. So like I just followed them in that path.
I love it. Can you dive into a little bit more about your grandmoms and your pops in regards to writing? Like, were they writing poetry? Were they writing books as well? If so, like, what was the genres or the stories that they were telling? I don't know if you've read any of their books or their work before, but I'm sure you have. So feel free to share.
My my father has his own book also, and my grandma was just more of just writing about her life, like her own just like autobiography, basically like her own just story. But my dad is also a poet, just like me.
I love that. I love that. Do you have any other inspirations outside of, family members? Are there any books or any authors that really like touch your heart when you've read their books or maybe read their poetry? I know a lot of people, although they look at him as simply a rapper, but a lot of people that I've had on this podcast who got into poetry were actually introduced to it through some of Tupac's early work, like when he was just like straight up writing poetry and not fully putting it into rap music yet. So who are some of your early inspirations outside of the family members?
I look at Tupac and I look at like Malcolm X writings and more of Martin Luther King writings. Like I look at all of that and just bring it not all into like I don't take all of their stuff from it. Like I look at points they talk about and I look at how that relates to my life and I just all wrap it around and make some poems. Like I looked at some of Tupac's work for some of the poems in my book and it's gonna be in some of the poems in my next book.
Okay. And why Malcolm X, man? Why Martin Luther King? I know it's easy to say they were black leaders, and I respect that, but what else about them kind of stood out to you? Was it a certain energy? Where was there a certain poem or speech that they gave that kind of really tapped into your heart and made you be like, man, I look up to these individuals. I want to continue investing in their work.
I looked at like the way they moved as men, like they stood on principles and like respectable principles, but they did it in the right way and they didn't do it in the wrong way that could end up up and dead or jail. They both ended up dead behind what they were standing on, but like they had a reason and a why.
I love that. And what would you say is your why? I know, some people might be like, he's too young. Don't ask him that question. But I hate when people used to tell me that, like, you're too young, like you'll find your purpose later, you'll find your why later. Right now, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you're tapped into. You've experienced a lot, which we'll dive into. So, in terms of the work you're putting out now and your mission, what's your why at this moment in life at 16? What do you feel like your purpose is? Although it might change, but what do you feel like it is today?
My purpose is like when in our city and just cities everywhere in America, like we see so many young teens that we were just in class with die, just out last weekend with die. So like it's to make it to 25 and leave a legacy for whenever I do go, that the whole city, just the whole America and just the whole world can be around, like to touch souls.
Love that. I love that. And God willing, I'm gonna push that age up a little bit more for sure. 50, 60 years old, God willing. But I feel you, man. I think unfortunately a lot of us had that same goal when we were younger. It's like, damn, if I make it to 18, it's a damn surprise. So like God bless. I know growing up for myself, it was just crazy when she turned 13, 14 and people start getting, involved in the wrong things, and you just start seeing people pass left and right or get locked up early. So I know you've mentioned, just based off your Instagram posts, your bio, your book. I know you've lost some people in your life. Can you kind of share how those losses or not, seeing somebody one day and then not seeing them the next day kind of influenced how you think and changed who you were at a young age and kind of is like inspiring this new version of you moving forward, I guess you could say?
It make you value your life more and value your decisions. Like you're not just living for yourself, and people don't understand that. Like my life affects more than just me. My life affects you. My life affects my family, my friends, just everyone around me. So you really just got to value your life more. And I had to realize that like some stuff I used to do, I wasn't supposed to be doing. Like you just got to value your life and learn from that. You got to be bigger. Like people put a cap on you, like this is all he gonna do in life. Like you got to break that cap and go reach whatever you want to reach in life.
Mm, mm. And so when you when you think about 17, 18, 19, like getting older into your late teens and your early 20s, what do you think is next for you? I know you mentioned a second book. I know you are currently writing. Are you interested in college? If not, are you interested in still very passionate about sports? Are you really into business or entrepreneurship? Like what do you think is up next for Tyree as you continue to get older?
I want to release my own clothing brand coming up. Also, drop more books, write some more poetry, and I want to go to TSU after graduation and really just chill, make some of my own businesses, and invest in stocks for real, and become a real estate broker.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. And what got you interested in those? Like, you mentioned stocks, you mentioned real estate. Is it other inspirational figures online? Is it your pop? So what got you interested in those forms of I guess developing wealth is probably what your goal is to develop wealth, be able to look after the family. But why those avenues? What inspires you about real estate? What inspires you about stocks?
my pops my pops once told me like you got to be able to make money in your sleep. So if I take a day off, I want to be able to still make money without working every day. And it's not that I want days off, it's that I just want a generational income that my grandkids can live off and their grandkids can live off. Because I don't want my grandkids or their grandkids to be in the same shoes as I was. Like I just want everybody to just eat and eat forever.
Respect it. I respect it. I think one thing that was challenging for me, and so I kind of want to ask you, like when I was younger and I was focused on big things, and I felt like people around me who were surrounding me, whether it was at school or whether it was in the neighborhood, weren't really interested in the same things I was interested in. So I like reading books. I like, learning about how to get money. I like spreading love and spreading good energy. I was really passionate about treating everybody with respect, no matter what race, color, neighborhood, whatever, just loving everybody. And I feel that similar energy from you in the post that you share, and then also just early on in this conversation. So, how do you, how have you managed the people that you keep around you? Like, how do you make sure you keep the right team of people around you so that you are, going in the right direction and you have a supporting cast?
I would say I only keep people who like genuinely love me and care around. Like some people only come around for certain things, and like this how I could say this. Like when I first made my book, it was a lot of support from people who've been around, who've been there, but then it also wasn't support. But then it's new people coming in, showing me 10 times the support other people who've been around. So I say, if you're not genuinely like real for me, you can't come around. You can't be in my small circle that I do have because them people earned their spot. Like they always here with me. The good days, the bad days, the days I don't want to do stuff, the days I do want to do stuff. So like that's why I hold my pops, my grandma, my family, my friends, my people at the Kansas City Descender to a high level because they here regardless.
That's respect. I love that. I love that. Let's talk about the book a little bit more. So, could you share with the listeners, first off, the title of the book, um, your best description of the book, and then when did you write it?
The same windows, two different views is that everybody has a perspective of just Kansas City, of me, of everything. But I just got a different view. We could be looking at the exact same thing, and it's just I got a different view.
Mm.
And what questions?
Yeah, no. What inspired you to write it? I think you kind of touched on that already. So let's talk about when did you create it? I know if from my understanding, it's a collection of poems. Is that correct?
The collection of poems, some from like 2016 when my big brother first passed, some recent, some a little older, like in the middle of that, like 2019, 2020 per se. But I just grabbed a collective. Like I put some poems back to back, some of my dad's work back to back, where we both look at the same window, but just a different view from different ages and different things he's been through in life.
And what was the process of putting the book together? I know I feel like there's probably some kids out there who maybe through class at school, or maybe they are huge writers and they write at home, but they might have a whole lot of a collection of poems. They might just have a collection of writings, and they've been like, I want to put it into a book, but they have this energy that has kind of presented an obstacle for them. Like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do. So what can you tell those, other young people out there that might want to create a book about the first maybe 1 through 3 steps that they need to take in order to launch a book or get a book out there into the world?
You just gotta put yourself out there. That's what I can say. Like I just tapped myself in with the right people, got me connected through certain things. You just gotta put yourself out there, and you gotta want it for yourself. You can't have people wanting to come to you like, hey, you want to write a book? You gotta actually want to do it and actually want to be there and actually want to tap in with people, gain the connections, and just gain the broad perspective on our city and on just anything that you do.
Mm. Your poems, inside of your book often talk about personal experiences like love, loss, betrayal. I know I saw a post earlier today that said, some people switched up, some people got locked up, some people passed away, and you stayed by my side, referring to somebody in the photo. So, how do you feel when you share these emotions with others, especially through the book? And or you're talking about it right now on the podcast, so what emotions come up? Are you like comfortable being vulnerable and sharing your story, your authentic life with others, or are there like senses of wanting to reserve or not sharing everything? So what's like your emotions around sharing feelings and experiences that revolve around love and loss?
Like sometimes I can say I feel vulnerable. Like you could talk to my pops. It's like some poems I didn't want to put in there that was about my mother and about just other things I've been through in life. But I will say like for like Tyrell, my big brother I talked about that's been through here, like I could talk to him about anything, and he's gonna always be with me, regardless of what he gonna call it, real, uncut. He gonna tell me like that's not what you supposed to be doing. This what you supposed to be doing, and that's why I value him so highly. I value others so highly because the people who real, who showing genuine love, tough love, that's what you need around you, and that's what you always gonna need around you if you're gonna end up being successful.
Mm, I love that. So you mentioned a book number two, a next book. Like what's in your mind in regards to the next idea you're putting together? Whatever you'd like to share. It might be you might not want to share everything, but whatever you want to share. What are your next plans on the next piece of work that you put out?
This is more like a dedication to my mother, my big brother, and it's gonna be called Robin's youngest son, because I am my
Mm,
mother's son, and it's gonna be poems about her, about everything I've been through. about just being a young black man without a mother, and just more to relate to people without mothers and why you doing what you're doing in life.
Mm. I think that'll be really powerful because I think it's often the reverse, especially in our community, is like there's unfortunately often one parent gone, but it's often not the mother. The mother's often the one that's there for the long term. So I'm sure that's challenging, but I'm sure a lot of people will connect with it. And it's a different approach for people to tap into. So I love that. I look forward to tapping in and reading that when it comes out. What podcasts or movies or TV shows does Tyree really enjoy that kind of like inspire you or keep you, happy, joyful? Maybe you're having a tough day and you're like, man, I need to watch something to bring my spirits up. What's that going to be? Or who's that going to be?
I actually really don't watch TV. I'm more of a basketball kind of guy. So I'm the basketball manager at my high school center. And like I really just like to go watch the boys play basketball. Because I used to play basketball, but I ain't as good as everybody else is now. So like I like to go watch them play.
I love that. I think that's also something to admire, though. By the way, just something you just said probably was just something that came out your mouth, but I think it's important. Like sometimes, man, ladies and gentlemen, this is for everybody out there, young or old. Sometimes you got to play your role and find joy in certain parts of your life story. Some people are like, I'm not good, but I'm gonna keep trying to be the best player, or they be telling themselves, lies for 10 years, like, nah, I'm gonna go to the league, nah, I'm gonna go to the league, nah, I'm gonna go to the league. And I respect the motivation, but at the same time, sometimes you got to tap in internally and look at your surroundings and look at your skill set and be like, hey, this may not be for me, but there is a role that I can play in the success of this team or in this specific field. Maybe you're not a great, obviously our guy Tyree is, but maybe you hang out Tyree and you want to write books too, but you really are shitty at writing, respectfully. And it's like you maybe you need to play a supporting role. Maybe you read Tyree's books and you give him some feedback, and now you playing a role in the team. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a book there's a book that I just read. It's the autobiography of Will Smith, and it's just called Will. And he talks so much about that, about like his team from when he was a young bull, like being 16, 17, and then like just grabbing everybody from around him and creating a team of like supporting cast players. And some of them young bulls probably wanted to be superstars or be the main person, but then eventually everyone realizes that everyone can win. You just got to support, you play your role and you support the person who's leading the pack. And that's how like a squad, a team can win. But it's a lot of pride internally for a lot of us. So it can be difficult. But I think, anyways, just you mentioning that you still love basketball, but you realized it may not be your thing. So you were like, all right, well, I'm going to be a manager. I'm going to come support. I'm going to still help the team win. You still play a role. I think that's a beautiful thing, especially for a young bull to kind of like tap in with early on. So I love that. What do you think about avenues or platforms like this, like podcasting? I know a lot of people that have a lot of stories to tell or have a lot of things to share have been getting into podcasting, have been launching podcasts. Have you ever thought about launching a podcast? Are there any interest there in regards to, sharing more about your life story and more, tidbits and inspiration that might be able to like touch other people's hearts, but through a different platform like podcasting, or maybe you're rapping, or maybe singing, or maybe doing public speaking? Like, are there any other avenues outside of authoring books that you've been interested in tapping into?
I feel like there's more avenues to come. Like I do know how to rap and write music. My big brother taught me, but like if it comes up, it happens. Like that's not something I just want to go out there and get. Also,
Yeah,
like I wanted to go out there and get it. Like with rap, it's like if it comes, it comes. But if it happens, it happens. If sports happen, it happens. Like I'm not just looking for that, but I just really want to make it big with my books.
I love that. I love that. How big is school in the family? Like, how important for is it for you to go to college for you, and then from like your parents? Like, what's the energy around college inside of the Colbert household?
Oh, if I don't make my grades, I won't be doing nothing. Like
I love it. I love it.
yeah, I can't leave that house. I can't do nothing. Like grades
Yeah.
came first, and with my grandma, she really big on everybody goes to college, even if that's not what you gonna go get your degree and what you want to do. Everybody got to at least go. So with Tyrell, he went to TSU. My father went to UCM, and my
Hmm.
mother went to UCM also. So like I'm going to college for sure. Like I
I
got
love it.
to. But I might stay more local and go to MCC, but I want to go to TSU.
And so TSU, by the way, is that Texas Southern or is it okay,
Southern.
gotcha. Just when and that's a HBCU, right?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I don't know if you caught the game yesterday during the All-Star weekend with Grambling State and I forgot the other school, but the NBA and HBCU schools partnered to like play a HBCU college basketball game nationally during the All-Star game. So respect to all the HBCUs out there, and I'm sure that success and all the education needed for Mr. Tyree will come and you'll do well. So before, I really wanted to jump in, share your story, be able to have a conversation with you. And then I look forward to in the following months as you release more books, tapping back in with you for future episodes and just kind of getting an update on your life as you continue to grow and develop. I just love to see young people doing something really at the end of the day. And I'm young too, so don't feel like I'm talking down to you, but like I just love to see young people doing something. I feel like when I was 16, I was really upset that a lot of people around me weren't chasing dreams or didn't have big goals. They was just out here in the streets, and then look at what they ain't here no more. And it's sad to see. So I really love, seeing individuals like yourself in your position, doing something for yourself. And I'm sure your family plays a role too, but I can already tell that you got a good heart. So sending love your way, my guy. Before we sign out of here today, I want you to kind of share one piece of advice for the listeners on maybe how to live a more joyful or happy life. You've went through a lot of tough things, so I'm sure you've had to develop strategies internally and mentally to kind of move through each day with a joyful attitude and with faith and purpose. So just anything, and don't feel like you need to answer quickly. Feel free to think on it, but one piece of advice for the people out there.
So this one thing I live by, like you gotta live every day like it's your last. So if you die today, is that the way you wanted to lead a relationship you left with your parents, with your family? So I always just try to at least go to bed saying I love you and I apologize for whatever I did throughout the day because I know it's hard on people around me. Like I change my moods quick because I go through so many things. Like 1 minute I just don't want to talk. With some minutes I want to talk all day long. So like they with you with the good times and the bad times. So you got to really love the people around you, love just everyone. Like, cause you leaving a legacy. If you die right now today, they don't want to say, "Oh, he was mad all the time. He was really a mean, cruel person." You want to say, "Dang, Tyree was smile, room full of joy. Like he loved people and loved everyone around him, like you do." So you just got to give that love and get it right back. So that's one thing I can say.
I love it. I love it. And the last thing, plug the name of your book one more time. Maybe why someone should read it, what type of people might be interested in reading your book, and then where they can find it.
Same windows, two different views by Tyree Colbert. Why you should read my book? It's just life. Like if you ever been through anything, ever just had to say like I gotta go get it for myself, you would relate to it. Like, and if you ever just like had to have them talks with yourself. Like it's a lot of things people don't see in the lives people live. Like people don't see in the hard life of being a teenager. Like you have to bury so many people around you. Like I've been to too many funerals for my age. Like people don't understand that, and people don't understand them talk that they have to have with their kids or have to go through themselves. So like people just got to relate, and that's how they can relate to it. You could go get my book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart. It's down on 18th and Vine in the Negro Baseball Museum, and I got copies myself. Hit my Instagram.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, check the description out. All the information to be able to get his book and also follow Tyree and continue to follow his story will be in the description. Most importantly, just make sure you go out there, buy the book. If you ain't buying the book, at least leave a 5-star review so that it gets pushed up in the charts on Amazon. That's very, very helpful in terms of, for authors. So Tyree, man, thank you for making time today to jump on this podcast. I would love to, in the following weeks, connect with you and your pops, pay for some dinner with you guys and just chop it up. And then we'll definitely get a podcast again in the future once you drop that next book to share more about where you're at and how you're feeling and just catch up. If you ever need anything, feel free to shoot me a DM. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Voices of Value podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast conversation, which I know you did, leave a 5-star review. Again, follow my guy Tyree. This is your boy signing out.